Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. Well, hey guys, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the Therapy Show. I'm excited to have you here today. I wanted to start out by kind of going down memory lane just a little bit. Please bear with me as I kind of share with you something that's been on my heart and mind. So almost, 2 years ago, I had this idea to start a podcast. And the idea really came to me when I was sitting at the Low Country Mental Health Conference in 2018. And we're going on 3 years. I can't do head math, y'all. Sorry. My brain's a little fried. So coming on 3 years. So the Low Country Mental Health, you guys may have heard me talk about this in my prior episode of becoming a continuing education provider. And when I was sitting there in the audience, I honestly thought I was going to pawn this idea off on somebody else, that it wouldn't be me who created this. But fast forward to November, December of 2018, and I was on vacation with our family down at Edisto Beach, South Carolina. And it just hit me one day. I was like, why can't I be the one to start this? I've pitched it to a couple of people. They haven't seemed to really jumped onto it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start. And I remember that day so crystal clear. Okay. So that was 2018, right? Then fast forward to winter 2019, I remember recording an episode of the Therapy Show while we were down at Edisto Beach, South Carolina, staying in a beach house over Christmas. I remember recording an episode in the upstairs bedroom while everybody was downstairs doing, pre-Christmas stuff, Christmas Eve things. And I remember sitting there going, "Does anyone actually listen to the show? Does anybody actually listen to the show? Should I keep going?" My downloads were kind of meh. I was getting good feedback from colleagues and peers, yet I don't know. I guess there was that imposter syndrome that had kicked in. Fast forward to about a year later. So that was 2019, last 2020 Christmas. And I remember thinking, I'm so glad I stuck with it. I'm so glad I kept going. I'm so glad that I took my time and, had patience and had faith in the process and listened to mentors that I had worked with over the past 2 years. And here I am, 2021, going into the holiday season. And I'm just so honored and blessed and grateful that you guys are here with me, that you listen. My downloads are going up. And that's not the only way to measure success, of course, but it is so heartwarming to know that my downloads are going up, because that means that more people are listening, finding the show, spreading the word, sharing it with their friends. So I just want to give a massive, massive thank you for everybody who's been with me. If you found me today, this is the first time you've listened to me, or maybe you've been with me from the very get-go. You know who you are. I just want to say thank you so much. And as we go into Thanksgiving, the gratitude and thankfulness that I have in my heart for all of our peers, all of our colleagues doing this work, sharing their good stuff and showing up and giving value and helping people. Oh my gosh. And if the past 2 years has shown us anything, we are a tribe and we will get through all of these changes together. So I wanted to give you guys a massive virtual hug, a massive shout out, and just say thank you for being here with me on my journey. I'm forever grateful. And I'm really excited for what's to come. I have some pod courses that I'm going to be working on with some feedback from you all. And of course, if you have suggestions for a pod course, feel free to reach out. I love ideas. I love collaborating. So thank you. Okay, so let's talk about this episode. It's called Start a Group Practice with Alison Pidgeon. And you guys might know the name Alison Pidgeon because she has been working with Joe Sanek of the practice for the past couple years. She has a group practice incubator or group practice boss coaching that she does, and she's phenomenal. And I'm really grateful for her. She came on the show and we talked about starting a group practice, and she gives us so many tips and ideas to think through. And if you're wondering if owning a group practice is for you, then definitely give this episode a listen. Alison really gives us practical things to think about. She gives us a timeline, and she even says that folks who work with her within 6 months, they're up and running a group practice. So she knows what she's talking about. Alison owns a large group practice called Move Forward Counseling in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. She started the practice in 2015 and now has three locations, including an office building she purchased and completely renovated in 2019. In addition, she started a virtual assistant company, Move Forward Virtual Assistants, in 2018, providing highly trained VAs to therapy practices. She has been working with Practice of the Practice since 2016 and has helped over 100 therapist entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses through mastermind groups and individual consulting. And y'all, we hope you enjoyed this episode and find massive value. Hey guys, before we dive into this episode, if you're enjoying the show, please consider leaving me a 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts. Just go to Apple Podcasts, look for The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard, and smash that 5-star button and feel free to leave me a review. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget, if you need continuing education contact hours, I got your back. I have 9 pod courses available for your listening and learning pleasure. And you can find them on my website, lisamustard.com. And your first one is free. And yes, I am an NBCC approved provider. I've made it my mission to provide you with continuing education that fits your busy lifestyle. No more having to sit in front of a computer to obtain your contact hours if you don't want to. You can listen to the pod courses in between sessions, on your commute, while you're at work, while you walk your dog, or make dinner. Just head to my site and check them all out. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Therapy Show. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard, and this week's guest is Alison Pidgeon. Welcome to the show, Alison. It's awesome to have you.
Thank you. It's so great to talk with you today.
Yeah, I know. I've been looking forward to this interview for weeks, and I'm so glad that we're able to do it. And we were chatting before the show started about just kind of some changes in my family and her family the past couple of weeks, and we've been kind of trying to get this interview for a while. So here we are. We're back. I'm doing it. I haven't had an interview in a month. I haven't released an interview in a month or a podcast in a month. So I'm really excited to be doing this and to have you as my the one that I go back with. So Alison is a group practice. I'm going to use the word guru because I really feel like that explains who you are and what you do. But for those of you who don't know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and how you became this group practice guru?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much. I started a private practice back in 2015. So I'm a licensed professional counselor by training and came up through, community mental health and got super burned out and decided to leave and start my own thing. And pretty soon I realized that I was lonely and how great it could be to build a business. And so I started a group practice in the fall of 2015. And we've just been growing ever since. It's called Move Forward Counseling. We have right now about 24 therapists, and we're in the process of expanding into the county next to us. So we have about 6 or 7 people who are actually waiting to kind of come on board with us this fall. And I started working with Joe from Practice of the Practice back in 2016, and he was gracious enough to allow me to become a consultant and mentored me. And my specialty has really become helping people start a group practice. And now I have other group practice owners as well who maybe have started, but now need some help with, continuing to scale up or need help with different challenges that they've run into with growing a group practice. So yeah, that is what I do.
Right. And you also have a podcast. Tell us about your podcast.
Yes, I have a podcast called Grow a Group Practice. So obviously all group practice related, which has been really fun. I've been doing that for a little over a year. And I also own a virtual assistant company called Move Forward Virtual Assistants.
Wow.
And also invest in real estate.
Man. Wow. You do a lot of things. So It's really cool. So does your Move Forward Virtual Assistant company, do you help therapists or do you help anybody?
Yeah, so it's specifically geared towards therapy practices, especially group practices, and they're all trained to work with therapy practices, and they understand HIPAA and all of that kind of stuff.
That's cool. So obviously they're virtual. I'm really curious about that business. I think that's something that's so needed for our profession. So you sound like a serial entrepreneur. You started out as you started out as a therapist, and then did you know you were an entrepreneur, or did it just kind of evolve as you got into the business side of growing your private practice?
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, I remember when they encourage you, in high school to like go to the career center and think about what you want to be when you grow up. And I imagined that I would own a business then. And then when I went to college, got really interested in psychology and had a great professor who was a mentor to me, who encouraged me to go to graduate school and become a therapist. And yeah, I kind of thought that I was going to end up becoming like a hospital administrator. Like I just like work my way up in this big health system and kind of do that. But I think, when you have kids, your priorities change. And
yeah, they do.
Yeah,
for sure.
So then, definitely always thought about, when different points at which I got burned out doing therapy, I always thought about owning a business or buying like a bed and breakfast or something.
Yeah, I know. I wish you guys could see my face and her face, because I'm like burned out doing something different, bed and breakfast. I've had that like thought so many times. I'm going to go open a bed and breakfast, but yeah, so I get it. And I love your story. And I also would love for you to share, okay, so you started private practice in 2015 and pretty soon after that decided you wanted to have a group practice. Like, so tell us, because I know there are folks out there listening right now who go, oh, I'm in private practice. I would love to add more therapists, or that's my end goal is I want to move in that direction, have a group practice. What are things that we need to be thinking about if we're in private practice and we're seeing this vision kind of come up like, oh, hey, I now want a group practice. So what are some of the things we need to do to kind of get in gear to do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that for a lot of people, they really have to weigh if that's something that they really want to do, because you have to be really interested in working on the business and not just in the business. Meaning like if you love clinical work and you can't imagine yourself doing anything else, then maybe that's not the right path for you. I really think one of the biggest challenges is just that you have to be the boss. So people are looking to you, to kind of make the final decision or give the practice direction, kind of like the buck stops with you. And so you have to be comfortable, taking on that role, or at least, even if you don't have any experience doing that, at least be open to, the idea of you being the manager or the boss or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. So you kind of have to have that mindset ahead of time. It's not just, you have to be comfortable with becoming the boss. Really?
Yeah. Cause I think a lot of people just think like, oh, I'll just bring these people on and we'll all just be colleagues and friends.
Right.
But that's, usually not the best setup, because people then just think they can do whatever they want. And you have this, idea of how you want your practice to run. And especially if you have W-2 employees, you want things done a certain way. And so if you're not, if you don't have that boss employee relationship, then things can go off the rails pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah. So let's say you do have that mindset and you're ready to jump into it. What are the first things that need to happen? Do you need to figure out how you're going to hire people? Do you need to get a system in place, like, technology in place? Do you need to talk to an attorney? Do you need to do a bit like what are those things those are the things that feel overwhelming to me, but I'm sure you can say, okay, Lisa, this is what you're going to do first.
Yes. So you mentioned two of the things that I would do first. The one is, you have to look at your systems and see what you need to switch up or add, because you may have, just pick systems that work for one provider, but now you're adding multiple providers. And maybe now you need a phone, system with multiple extensions. Maybe you need to set up QuickBooks rather than tracking all of your income and expenses on a spreadsheet, because the volume of those transactions is just going to increase. So that's pretty much step number one that we recommend to people. And then the other thing is, definitely assemble kind of your team of folks who are going to help you, because you can't be an expert in the legal stuff and the accounting stuff. Like you need somebody who's going to be on your team, so to speak, who you can consult with when you do need legal advice or, someone to review contracts. You need that lawyer, you need that accountant that's going to tell you how to set things up correctly so you can save taxes. When I say we, I mean Whitney Owens and I work with her a lot through Practice of the Practice. So we also recommend, having a consultant, reaching out to somebody who's done it before, who's walk the walk, who can tell you all the shortcuts, help you avoid the mistakes. We see people go through the process of starting a group practice really fairly quickly once they are presented with the steps or the roadmap of how to do it.
Okay.
they can get a group practice up and going in 6 months or less.
Oh, okay. Very cool. That's great to know. And then it seems like I'm seeing a lot of folks right now say that they're hiring for their group practice. They're looking, they just have so much demand. And the past year and a half has shown us that we do have job security. If there's anything that we've ever been secure about, is that there is a need for our services. But it seems like there's more competition out there. Like practices are growing. You can be a little bit, as a therapist looking to join one of these practices, you can be a little more choosy. You can be a little more, I don't know what the word's, not demanding, but so there's these. So what are group practices doing out there that would be something unique and kind of draw in these therapists that are looking for their next opportunity? Do you know what I mean? Like what are some things that they can be doing or thinking about offering, I guess?
Yeah. So that's actually a topic that's come up quite a bit, just even in the past, 6 months. The hiring landscape has gotten so competitive. So what we tell folks is that they really have to think about what's going to make your position the most attractive. And I think for a lot of people, that would be, presenting some kind of W-2 employment with a really nice benefit package. I started out with contractors and in 2020 switched over to W-2 employees so that I could offer health insurance and PTO and all of those things. And that made a huge difference with retention and recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
So we do all kinds of things, from pay for their CEs to we give them a work from home stipend. We try to just give them all kinds of perks and a flexible schedule. We don't mandate like what their schedule has to be. We pay them fairly, all the things. So I think that makes us really competitive compared to other places that might just be offering like a contractor position or maybe has, W-2 employment, but doesn't have any kind of benefits to offer. So yeah, I think that's a big key, is that benefit package.
Yeah. Do you see more and more therapists opening up group practices? I mean, is that a trend right now? You do?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I think the barrier to entry has been like as low as it's ever been.
Yeah.
To open either a group or a solo practice, because you don't even need an office space anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, really, you don't. What do you think is needed for someone like, let's say I wanted to start a group practice in terms of marketing myself and my practice? What are some of your ideas or suggestions that you give to the folks you work with?
Yeah, of course, we tell them have a really great website. You want something that looks up to date and modern. You want nice professional, headshots, photography. SEO is huge. For my group practice, we're on page 1 of Google and we get a ton of referrals that way. We don't even really actively pay for any SEO services. We just, once we got up to page 1 of Google, we just kind of keep our blog up to date, and that keeps us up in the ranks. And I would say, definitely making those connections in your community of referral sources, because now more than ever, people need mental health services. So if you can connect with, family doctors or schools or whatever makes sense for who your ideal client is, that is huge as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's those. I know SEO is so important. I remember Joe kind of hammering on that when you get your website up and going, SEOs, you have to have that, and you have to have the blog articles and the backlinks and all that stuff. And I've seen some of my peers here in Columbia, South Carolina, do a really, really good job of that. Like they just get on the first page of Google and they just like, they're done. They're like, they want to start a group practice now because they're so booked.
Yes.
So I guess that's, how do you know when it's time to start a group practice? Is you're fielding so many requests that you can't handle it yourself. So it's time to take it maybe to the next level.
Yeah, I would even say doing it before then. I wasn't full when I started my group practice. I had the experience when I was in community mental health of managing folks. Like I was the director of an outpatient clinic, and I actually really enjoyed that part of my job. So for me, it was about being able to continue to grow and work on the business stuff, but also increase my income without it being reliant on trading dollars for hours. So yeah, I would say if your caseload is full, it's actually probably a little bit too late, because then you don't have the time to focus on building the group. So I think a lot of times people just think like, oh, I'm turning people away, I should just hire people, but they're not thinking through like, do I really want a group practice? Do I really want to be the boss? Do I want to work on the business side of things? So don't just do it just because you have, tons of referrals. Like you should do it because it's something you're passionate about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely makes sense. I like how you even said do it before you're full because you won't have time to work in the business, or I'm sorry, on the business if you're, booked 8 hours a day.
Right.
You'll burn. Well, I mean, I know I'd burn myself out pretty fast. Hey, friend, want to be more comfortable while sitting on the therapy couch? I sure did, and went looking for pants and tops that were soft, wrinkle resistant, and would match just about anything I already had in my closet. And now Zaya Active makes up about 80% of my wardrobe. Would you like to learn more? Head over to my site, lisamustard.com, and click on the Activewear tab. And don't think this is just for women. They have men's and kids' clothes too, and our family is loving the quality, and I am loving the price tags. So head over to my site to check it all out. So how do you find time to do these other businesses that you have created? How does this work for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am, I don't know if you're familiar at all. There's a book called Traction. That's a very well-known business book. And they talk about the difference between somebody who's a visionary and somebody who's an integrator. So a visionary would really be that CEO type person who kind of is looking at the big picture, who comes up with the ideas. And the integrator is more of like the chief operating officer type person who's actually like overseeing the day-to-day, all the details, the nitty-gritty. Okay, how are we going to implement this new thing, and really looking at everything on a very detailed level. So I am very much a visionary, and I look for people who are integrators. So in the counseling practice and the virtual assistant business, I have 2 COOs, and they really oversee the day-to-day of those businesses. I'm still involved, obviously, but it doesn't take up a huge chunk of my time because they're really running the business on a regular basis.
Very cool. How did you get to that point? So was it for you were seeing clients and then eventually you just kind of pulled yourself out of seeing clients, or do you still see clients or?
Yeah, no, I don't see clients anymore. So when I had my 3rd child in 2018, I decided to retire from therapy because I felt like I was just ready for a new challenge and just loved working on the business and doing the business consulting so much more. So I kept my license active, but I stopped seeing clients, and that's been great. I have no regrets about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm sitting here going, oh yeah. I mean, I still get it. Like, I mean, I'm just at a point in my career where I totally understand all of that. And yeah, I get it completely. And then, your podcast too is really fun and really helpful. I can't wait. I think is it every Thursday you have a new episode out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I get excited every time. I'm like, it's Thursday, group practice.
Oh, nice.
Coming out. What's your vision for that, for the podcast? Cause you run that through Practice of the Practice with Whitney. Is that right? Y'all do it together?
No. So sometimes Whitney and I do episodes together.
Okay.
Whitney has her own podcast called Faith and Practice Podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we take over Joe's Practice of the Practice podcast. Yeah. That is a great question. So I feel like, I guess I want to bring attention to certain things that maybe haven't been talked about on other podcasts or, blog posts. Like, I know one question I get asked about a lot is, investing in commercial office space for practice owners. So I'm hoping to have some more folks on the podcast to talk about that. And, that's something that everybody wants to build passive income, but I feel like nobody's talking about, well, you could just buy the building you're in. Yeah. That would be passive income.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I kind of just organically, as I encounter people, obviously, with the pandemic, mostly interact with people online through social media or whatever. But, as I'm hearing new and different things that are changing in our business, I try to get those folks to come on the podcast.
Yeah. So what are some things out there that are new and changing that, you're excited about?
Yeah. I mean, I think so much has changed because of the pandemic and telehealth. And I think telehealth isn't going away. I think it's here to stay. And I think there's just so many more opportunities now for how we can build our group practices. Like, I'm building out a whole telehealth arm of my practice. So it will actually have its own separate website, its own separate team, we have managers over teams of 12 therapists. So they have their own manager and they're their own little kind of group, so they can kind of all relate and, talk to each other, being, 100% virtual, but still having that support of, being a part of a larger organization. And, I think it's been interesting to see so many therapists are actually applying, asking to work 100% virtually, many more so than want to work in the office or even work in the office part of the time. So I think that is a really huge opportunity to continue building that out. And then I think too, when the pandemic started, I realized that, we don't just market to the people who live within a half-hour driving distance of the office anymore. We can advertise to anybody in the whole state of Pennsylvania. And that's a whole nother type of marketing. Right. And a lot of that is SEO work again. So just those opportunities as well. Like, how do you market to the rest of the state? We're even looking at renting mailboxes in other parts of the state and then setting up Psych Today profiles attached to those addresses. So we're not actually physically, let's say, out in Pittsburgh, that's 4 hours away from us, but we can have an address there and we can have a Psych Today profile that, is linked to that zip code. So just like those kinds of things, I think are really exciting to see how we can connect with people, offer more services, especially in Pennsylvania, such a big part of our state is rural, to be able to reach those people and give really high quality care. I mean, I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. And it is so true. I see it around here. Folks don't really want to go back if they don't have to. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day and she was talking about not going back, like letting her lease go and just being all virtual, especially. And it made sense for her because her kids are in school and they're young and she can work around their schedule. I mean, really, it is such a unique time in our field. I mean, in the world, of course, but like, I think with our field, we're so used to doing things so traditionally and so brick and mortar, and then, hang the shingle, do the psychology today. But I mean, what we found last year was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things out there that are popping up that really do cater to what we do and how many people we can now help. And I think you're right. Like, if I have a virtual group practice in South Carolina, I'm not just limited to Columbia, like the whole state. I can do the whole state now. So are you thinking about moving into another state as well? Or are you just going to focus on Pennsylvania? Like, do you have therapists, let's say, in another state where you could have a group practice with them?
Yeah, I'm considering that. I think it'll be interesting to see now that we're moving into this other county and we're kind of creating a whole separate entity, even though it's still going to be the same name of the practice, but it's like going to have its own admin staff, its own website, its own EHR login, all of that stuff. So I think once we get that kind of hammered down and figure out like, okay, what is the process to open up this kind of whole separate thing in another place? I think then it'll be easier for me to figure out, okay, how do we do this then in another state, especially because we're very, very close to Maryland. I could, be in Maryland in 45 minutes, very close to Delaware. Yeah. So there's definitely opportunities there for sure.
Yeah. It's amazing. It just gets all the creativity going. And, I love connecting with entrepreneurial therapists. I love it. It's so much fun to kick around ideas. I know you've got other things I'm sure you're working on, and maybe we'll go down the road. We'll hear more about your different ventures. But so how do folks learn more about you? Where can they connect with you?
Probably the best way is to go to the Practice of the Practice website. So over on the right-hand side, it says our team or work with us or something like that. And so you can kind of read more about me there. My practice website is moveforwardlancaster.com. Now we have moveforwardhershey.com and we have moveforwardonline.com. Oh, wow. So we have separate websites, like I said, for our kind of different regions or kind of how we're separating up all of our therapists. And then Move Forward Virtual Assistants is moveforwardvirtualassistants.com.
Awesome. So one more question. It just popped into my head. If folks are interested in applying to work with you in your group practice, should they go to these websites in their area or?
Yeah. So on each of the websites, we have an employment page.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we are actively hiring licensed clinicians for each of those 3 places. So
okay. So folks should just go check out what you have open on
Yep.
the website. Okay. And then do you hire for the virtual assistant too? Is that something?
We do. Yep. We have an employment page on there as well. So right now we're hiring people who live in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's an option as well.
Awesome. Well, Alison, thanks so much for being here. We'll put everything in the show notes, you guys. I'll list all those websites too. So if you didn't get a chance to write them down, just go to the show notes and they will be there for you. Is there anything else that we should know before we say see you later?
Yeah, I will give you a special sneak preview of a project that I'm working on if you want to hear about that.
Oh yeah, sure, please.
Okay. Yeah, so I am working on a website that's called TheraSuite, and it is a website where practice owners can go if they want to buy a curated collection of furniture and decor for their office space.
Ooh.
So you can buy a board when you get all the links, and you can buy all the stuff to go in your office, and it's all coordinated. You can shop by style. You can also shop by type of room, whether you want to furnish a waiting room or an office or a kid's room. And if you want to work with a designer to get a more custom design, you can also reach out to the designers we have featured on there.
I knew you were a serial entrepreneur. I knew it. I knew it. I love it. So that site is up and ready to, like, it's up now.
Well, it is not. So It's going to be launched very soon, probably in the next month.
Okay.
So it'll be at thera-suite.com.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you've got another idea brewing or something else too. So I would not put it past her, y'all, that she's going to have. In 6 months, we'll be having you back on and you'll be telling us even more. So, I mean, I just love your brain. I love how it just has these ideas. How do you, well, maybe, I don't know, I'm just keep going with this interview, but how do you decide which idea to work on and which one to shelve or come back to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think a lot of it is timing. Like, I realized that I had, fortunately, the money to put into getting TheraSuite up off the ground, like, to pay a website designer, where in the past I probably would have tried to do it myself, which is a mistake.
I hear you.
Yeah. So I had the idea probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And then it just felt like there was enough time now. And like I said, money to kind of invest in getting other people to help me get it up off the ground. So
nice. Well, I love it. I think it's so smart. And I hope folks that still have offices will get inspired. And even if you don't have, your home office, gosh, I want to work in a nice home office too. So I'm guessing there's, some great ideas on there for even if you're working from home. So we'll definitely link to that, you guys. So be sure to check that out and keep an eye on it because it'll launch in a month or so, I guess. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, Alison, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I'm so glad we got together and we were able to record this. And you guys just check all the show notes out and see and connect with Alison. She's just awesome. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine.
Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content.
And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.